Today's guest is Nathan Bevan. Nathan has been a coach and personal trainer for the last 10 years now. He's an absolute brain box when it comes to anything to do with internal health and external health. And in today's podcast, we're going to be talking about nutrition, the effects it has on your mental health, different supplements that are going to help boost testosterone, that are going to help decrease inflammation, and going to help detoxify the body. This is an amazing podcast, and without sounding biased, Nathan is probably one of the best coaches out there. He's helped mentor me. I work for him now as a coach myself for Transcend Physique, and I couldn't recommend him any more than what I already do. So, hope you enjoyed this podcast. If you've not already, please click the follow button on Spotify. Please click the subscribe button on YouTube, and I look forward to hearing your feedback. Do you think there is a direct link between an individual's internal health and mental health?
Yeah, just in a way of, obviously, you know about like gut health and digestive health and stuff like that. So there is a link between the gut-brain axis. So obviously there's different axes of the gut, and one of them is the gut-brain axis. And within the gut, we actually produce 50% of dopamine and 90 to 95% of serotonin. So both of these two are neurotransmitters. Dopamine is a neurotransmitter that is kind of a motivation and drive one that it helps us get up and go and do things. So 50% of this is produced in the gut, and also with our serotonin, this is kind of our mood modulating one. I always say where, like, in terms of our ability to maybe tolerate stress, this is what helps us tolerate stress, so to speak, because it helps us calm down. It has a calming effect on us. So 90 to 95% of this is produced in the gut with a good, healthy, functioning gut. So how you link that to mental health is if we have inadequate amounts of dopamine and serotonin, I'm not going to say people will have mental health issues, but they'll feel a lot less motivated, a lot more stressed, a lot less calm. So they'll therefore probably maybe feel like they're more depressed, should we say. So in terms of like a link there, like if you're eating bad quality food, drinking alcohol, which will wreck digestive health, then that can potentially cause like you to not produce as much dopamine and serotonin, and therefore that's kind of the link that I would kind of connect there with like internal health wise, like digestive wise. And I'd just say in general, like when you're eating low quality food, you're drinking alcohol, these will all suppress like our dopamine pathways. So obviously when we eat these foods or when we drink alcohol, we have like a spike in dopamine, don't we? Because some people like doing these things and they have that instant gratification of doing it or whatever. So then what I always say is what goes up must come down. So if you're like on this high of going out with your mates, like eating a lot of different good quality food, then like near enough maybe straight after you stop, all that drops.
Yeah.
So then that drop, and when you have that drop in dopamine and serotonin, then you're going to feel a little bit more depressed. I kind of do that because I don't really like labeling things of depression. It's kind of like, I always see it that I feel like depression is a bit different to what some people think depression is.
Like perceive.
Yeah, like I feel like it is a bit skewed these days where people might be feeling a little bit shit one day and then feel like they're depressed, whereas it might just be that they're actually just having a bad day. Yeah.
And the food's just making them feel worse.
Yeah, and like maybe they've just had a bad day where they've overate or they've like had a glass of wine or a beer and then they feel a bit shit after it. So I feel like obviously them are kind of maybe the two links that I make from internal health with mental health, so to speak.
So when somebody, like you say, drinks the beer on the weekend or goes out and has a processed food, and then they have that spike in dopamine, and then it comes back down even further than what their baseline would be perceived to be, would they then feel the need to eat more poor quality food to then jump back up to where they was?
I feel like that can be the factor. So like, for example, if somebody is low in dopamine, therefore their emotion will more than likely be higher. So they'll probably not be able to tolerate stress as efficiently as somebody who's got like more steady levels of dopamine, then they'll be more likely to reach for that highly palatable food, which will then jump it up for that time that they're eating it, and then literally straight after crash it back down.
Yeah.
So I would say that they would be more than likely, and that's kind of where it's up to a person in order to manage that in a way of like actually catching themselves in the act, so to speak. Like that's what I always say to clients. Like if you are eating a food and you're not really realizing, because some people actually just reach for these things because it's a habit and they just don't realize, and they've ate it.
Yeah.
And then it's kind of like you've got to catch yourself in the act, and you've got to kind of slow your brain down, like maybe count to 10 deep breaths, as daft as that sounds, and like slow the emotion down, calm the emotion down, because we know that if we have some deep diaphragmatic breathing, then this is going to actually calm our central nervous system. And when we are in a state of like emotion, we're in probably a state of fight or flight, which like maybe sympathetic dominance, which means stressed out. And then we're going to act out of emotion more.
So thinking logically.
Yeah, so like if we kind of take these 10 deep breaths and therefore calm our central nervous system, it'll allow the logical side of our brain to kick in, because the emotional side always kicks in first. And then it sometimes takes a while for the logical side to then start going, like breaking things down and thinking more logical, like, is this food going to make me feel better in the long run? Does my action here align with what I want to achieve? Or little things like that.
What do you feel like's the main emotions that either yourself or clients sort of jump to then eat poor quality food or experience?
So, in terms of the main emotions, what do you mean by that?
So, like, what emotions do they feel? Do you feel like it's stress, anger?
Yeah, obviously, I feel like stress is probably the biggest factor. Like, there is so many different types of stress, though. So there's like internal, like physiological stress, we'll say, psycho-emotional stress, like external work-related, like lifestyle stress. We could even like put in that there's kind of stresses from like the environment, like environmental stresses. So like when we say stress, I would say like the biggest ones are probably like psycho-emotional, where it could be like some like traumatic past event, what potentially triggers that person to actually overeat or turn to alcohol as kind of an escape, should we say? Which again, I'm not qualified to talk about, and that's not my field. But then we could, and then another one I would say is like external stress. So like, for example, like work life or home life is a big one as well. Like, is your social circle or your social environment supporting what you want to do, or is it not? Is it trying to pull you away? And I feel like they're probably the main ones, in my opinion, that I see clients get pulled off track from, should we say. I'd say it's definitely like social environment is a massive one. And potentially like work, and then maybe trauma, unresolved trauma, should we say.
Yeah, well, in psychology in uni, there was 13 studies which looked at the effects of stress on diet quality. And I think every single one of them found that the higher somebody perceived the stress levels to be, the poorer the quality of food they went towards. And then obviously, like you said, like we just mentioned, if you're eating poor quality food and having a spike in dopamine, then it's crashing back down. You're going to sometimes feel the need to eat poor quality food again. So you'd end up in sort of like a vicious loop of constantly feeling the need to eat poor quality food. Have you ever experienced that with clients?
Yeah, but a lot of the time, like I always talk about like a negative feedback loop and a positive feedback loop. Like I always say, like if somebody's in this vicious negative feedback loop, they're gonna just keep doing what they've always done unless they take action and like try and break the chain.
Yeah.
Breaking the chain's the biggest thing. So like I just said, catching yourself in the act, like actually finding out where you're going wrong in your week and why this is happening. So finding a trigger. So for example, say if you come home on a Wednesday and then you've had a stressful day at work on a Wednesday and you reach for a bottle of wine or a few beers, then you need to kind of actually first pinpoint where that's coming from and why it's coming, why that's happening. Yeah, and like I feel like with people, So this is just my opinion, but like I always think very simplistically on why I'm feeling aware that I'm feeling. So, for example, say if I feel rubbish one day, I'm feeling a bit down, I've had a bit of a stressful day. Like my first thought is to do something that makes me feel good. Yeah, everybody's is. That's why some people actually turn to these foods and turn to alcohol because it makes them feel good. Sometimes it's rewiring the brain on what makes them feel good. So, like realizing that these kind of foods and drink or whatever make you feel good for the split second, but make you feel rubbish afterwards. Yeah. So then, for example, rewiring the brain and getting somebody to actually enjoy like training, enjoy going for a walk, enjoy eating good quality food because it makes them feel good, and rewiring the brain to actually turn to these type of things to a certain degree to actually help them deal with stress to a certain degree. Yeah? So like I'm not saying that somebody should just start overtraining to deal with stress and use that as a different coping mechanism, so to speak. But what I'm saying is sometimes that is still the first step to actually help them stop doing these other things, so to speak.
Yeah. Do you feel like, so with it being easy to obviously turn to have a beer or eat processed foods, do you feel like that's because of how easy it's been made to have those foods accessible, especially in like, I don't know, in the UK, obviously most people find you can deliver food to your door, you can go and get a beer from the shop, wherever, pretty reasonably priced. It's a lot easier. There was a study that we looked at in nutrition in uni which showed that the more poverty areas have more fast food chain restaurants in those areas, so it's easier for people who are like struggling financially to eat more processed foods.
I mean, there's a good example. I agree 1,000,000%. There's a good example of where like for example, I think New Zealand and Australia, I think the price of good quality healthy food over there is very extortionate, and the price of fast food is very cheap. So the population, I think it's more New Zealand than Australia, but the population of New Zealand, there's a lot of overweight people, and the reason is because healthy food, should we say, is, or good quality nutrient dense food, should we say, is more expensive than fast food.
Yeah.
So then, like, families who struggle are just going to go to fast food.
Because it's cheaper.
It's cheaper, and that's all they can afford.
And it tastes better, arguably, for those people.
Exactly. So it's kind of like, no wonder this is happening in certain areas. Like, how could you blame somebody who's not financially capable to actually buy these things?
Yeah, 100%.
Like, I would probably argue that maybe some people could afford it and just don't choose to do it. But then there will be some families who have got like a family of 4 who actually can't afford that. So, I mean, you probably have to have a look at, So, I'll just leave it at that.
Yeah. So, obviously, there's people who are listening now and thinking, like, I still want to eat some sort of processed food in my diet, still want to have a drink with my mates. Like, being realistic, how would you plan, let's say, a week for people who want to eat healthy, get in shape, feel better, but still enjoy, let's say, go to the pub with the mates on the weekend?
Yeah, very simple. Like for example, let's just say somebody wants to eat out socially twice, and they want to drink alcohol once a month. Yeah. So if they want to eat out socially twice in the week and they want to drink alcohol once a month, let's use that as an example. So if you want to eat out socially twice and you want to look at your week as 100%, so 7 days a week is 100%, yeah? And if we eat nutrient-dense whole foods for 7 days a week, that's 100%, yeah? If we eat out socially twice, let's just say that that's more worse quality food. So that knocks us down to, say, 80 to 90%, yeah? So as long as around them times that you're eating good nutrient-dense food, you can't go wrong. Obviously, it's all about calories. If you're wanting to lose body fat, then you're going to have to watch your calorie intake. So for maybe, let's just say we have a female who loses weight on 1,600 calories a day. Obviously, this is dependent on how much cardio and steps and stuff she's doing, but let's just say she loses body fat on 1,600. So if she loses 1 pound of body fat, following 1,600 calories a day for 7 days, over, let's just say 1,500 to make the maths easier. Yeah. So over a weekly period, then she would consume 10,500 calories, to lose 1 pound. So then we've got to still hit 10,500 calories across a week, but include these 2 social meals.
Yeah.
So say she follows 1,300 for the first 4 days, Monday to Thursday. So she's saving 800 calories there. Then say on the Friday when she's having one of her social off-plan meals, then she's got 800 calories banked. Yeah. Then on that day she could maybe eat 800 calories. So then she's still got 700. So she got another 700 banked on that day plus 800 banked throughout the week.
Yeah.
That makes sense. So she's got 1,500 calories banked. Yeah. So then in that social meal, I always say with a social meal, just stamp it as at least 1,500 calories. Obviously, it depends on your choice. Yeah. So let's just say she's allowed 1,500 calories. So on that day, if she's at 800, she's at 2,300. Yeah. And then on the Saturday, say she does the same again. So she's at 2,300 there. So she's actually gone over by how many? 800 per day. So she's 1,600 calories over, but she's banked she's actually banked not 1,500, 2,200.
So she's still going to lose weight.
So she's still going to lose weight. So as long as, this is the important point, as long as them 1,300 calories in the week on them other specific days, plus the food she eats before these socials and on the separate days in between is nutrient-dense, good quality food with high protein, high fruit and vegetables, she will still lose weight.
And she'll still feel
good. Like, obviously, depending on how many calories she puts in them 2 social meals will depend whether she's in a deficit or not. But say if she sticks to within 1,500 calories for them 2 meals, or each meal, should I say, then following that guidelines, that's a better way of putting it. Following them guidelines, she'd still lose body fat.
Yeah. So then say she has the off-plan meal on the weekend, or if someone was to have the off-plan meal on the weekend, and then they feel worse the day after, what would you go about? Just getting straight back to the diet, getting straight back to nutritional foods? Would that be the best way to go about it?
So obviously, like, getting straight back to nutrient-dense food should always be the key, because it should be a lifestyle. Like, it boils my blood a little bit where people are eating good quality food and then they're labelled as on a diet.
Yeah.
And it's kind of like, that's actually what people should do. Like, this is how everyone should eat. Like, this is how we've ate for years.
Yeah.
And then we've slowly gone away because we've been westernized, where now it's deemed as, like, abnormal.
Now we're eating, like, packaged butties.
Yeah, no, like, we're eating packaged stuff and like more processed foods, should we say, than we ever before. This is why we have this kind of obesity crisis and stuff like that. So, so what was the question again? Because I've just gone off on.
No, so if they have the off-plan meal, they have to just get straight back to it.
Yeah, so literally getting straight back to it, as we just said, because that's like normality.
Yeah.
That is like somebody's norm, and that should be just where you actually want to.
And people don't realise that is normal.
Yeah,
That's
exactly.
the main thing. Do you feel like a lot of people, obviously going off the back, like you've dieted yourself, like bodybuilding, you've done extreme diets, you've got yourself in sick nick. Do you feel like a lot of people don't understand what it's like to feel hungry?
Yeah. I think there's a very big difference between somebody who's hungry and somebody who's bored.
Yes.
Yeah, so somebody who's bored will just kind of maybe talk themselves into that they're hungry, or they want something more importantly. It's not actually that they're hungry, and I always try and change clients' words where they say need to want.
Yeah, and going off the back what we said before, could another point being the way they feel, because obviously if they're feeling bad and they're just sat in the house doing nothing, like, fuck it, I'm going to go and look at what's in the drawer and have something to eat.
Exactly, mate. Like, these are like they're linked, aren't they? Like, if you're bored, you're feeling a bit crap about yourself, you've been a bit stressed that day, you're more than likely going to go to the biscuit tin.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's what's going to stop you losing body fat to a certain degree, depending on how many biscuits you eat, obviously.
And it's going to keep you in that cycle of not feeling good.
Exactly. And then you, like, that cycle is actually feeling like a failure as well. Like, where you're like, oh my God, I've failed. Like, oh, I'm so stupid, blah, blah. Like, digging yourself down when you don't actually need to do that. You just need to kind of clear your mind, wipe that slate clean and go, I'm not really good. I'm not going to do that again. I've done it. It's okay. I'm just not going to do it again. And I'm going to go again. I'm going to keep knocking at the door, as I always say. Yeah. And I'm going to get up and do the same thing that I know works.
Yeah.
Because, again, that creates a positive feedback loop. Like, we've spoken about a negative feedback loop. I always speak about a positive feedback loop. Like, say if you're advised to do something by a coach or by somebody on the internet and you do it and it generates the outcome that you actually wanted to or they told you it would, and then this positive feedback loop starts spinning round and you start gaining momentum and then you start being more positive and then you start saying no to these things that you used to say yeah to.
Yeah.
And then that creates it even stronger for you to say no more. And then you're like, say no now doesn't bother you.
Yeah.
Whereas it used to. And now you kind of like, I'm good with saying no to things. But then there'll come a point where you actually give in and you probably say yeah. But then as long as you just chop that there and don't actually start saying yes to everything again, you go, no, I'm going to start saying no again. And you start saying no again, and then that just creates that feedback loop.
Do you feel like a lot of people struggle to say no?
I think at first, like when somebody doesn't have an aim, doesn't have a target, yes. When somebody's lost, when somebody doesn't know where they're going, when somebody doesn't have this end goal, yes.
So with yourself, let's say before you started bodybuilding or before you started coaching, what was that decision like? Like, I'm going to get in shape now. How did you make that decision?
So like obviously when I played rugby league, it was different. Like I didn't. My goal was just to play and perform. So like obviously nutrition came into it, but it wasn't where I had to be super strict like I did when I was bodybuilding. So like when I stopped playing rugby, and then I always knew I wanted to do some form of photo shoot, just mainly to prove to myself that I can get in shape. Because I'd never done a diet before then. Yeah, I was 25 and never dieted. So then I just created that goal of doing a photo shoot, and I literally did it to the T, where I didn't have nothing off track. And the change in mindset was actually that goal. Like it was just that I had some goalposts to aim towards where I weren't going to let anything stop me. And that pull me off track. I was just tunnel vision, so to speak.
And was that like the first time you'd done something like that?
Yeah, that was the first time I'd ever extreme dieted. I'd dieted people before where I probably didn't push them as much as I could have done because I'd never done it myself. So that was another reason why I wanted to do it, to kind of go through the process myself so I can actually kind of put people through it. But that was the first time I ever did anything extreme, yeah.
Yeah, and do you feel like you've gained characteristics from that you've took into other areas of your life?
Yeah, I mean, like, one, it developed a mindset in me that I already had, but it strengthened it, should I say, where it was relentless. And it was kind of like, I know I can do whatever the fuck my mind tells me to. Yeah, and I know that if I tell somebody I'm going to do something, I just do it, and I'll do it, and I'll do it extremely, and I'll go all in, and and it reinforced that to me because like when we played rugby, I was a bit similar. I liked winning. I was competitive. I didn't really like losing. Didn't like missing a tackle. Didn't really like knocking on, all this type of shit. And that kind of first prep kind of brought that back out of me or made it even stronger. And it also learned me that, or taught me, should I say, that like the how shit you feel at the end of them periods is like unbelievable. Like the last 2 weeks are like horrendous, and you can't be bothered. Your legs are heavy. You don't want to train. You don't want to get steps in, all that type of stuff, and it just teaches you discipline is a big thing, and it's actually another funny point is it actually makes you appreciate food.
Yeah, like going back to feeling hungry.
Yeah.
Where people don't realise how...
we didn't catch on that point, so I feel like people are either bored or hungry. And honestly, like you will never have experienced true hunger unless you are single-digit body fat level.
Yeah.
I honestly, like anyone who tells me that they're hungry, and I mean this in the nicest of ways, but they are... This is going to be a bit close to the bone, but they are like over 15% body fat. I always think in my head, honestly, like you can't be that hungry. Like it's probably boredom, yeah, and it's probably potentially, the only caveat I would say is if a client's getting bad sleep. I would say that's the only time. Like if somebody is very, very hungry and they're over like 15% body fat, then I always look at the client's sleep. Because that, obviously, our sleep regulates ghrelin and leptin.
Yeah. Well, I remember doing the photo shoot with you when you coached me, and that was the first time I experienced hunger. 100%, mate. Like, I was literally writing lists of foods that I was going to eat when I'd finished. I was like scraping the ceramic off the bowl when I was eating my porridge and oats. Like, every single meal was like amazing. But like you said, it makes you appreciate food. And I was in situations with friends, family, where they'd be eating processed foods or drinking and overindulging. And then I was sat with my beef and salad or beef and rice at the time and like really enjoying it. But then they was looking at me as if like I was unhealthy.
Yeah.
But like I was just eating a normal sized meal for my body and weight, whereas they was like 10, 12 pints in, shoving pizza down the face, which I enjoy doing as well, and I enjoy doing after the photo shoot, but that's something that the people I was surrounded with were doing every single weekend. So like you said, people don't realise like you need to be hungry, you need to experience and appreciate food more, and then enjoy those off-plan meals like from time to time.
Yeah, 1,000,000%. I mean, like when I coach people, it's mainly to actually help them. Do I like the word balance? I don't know. Like create balance and just help them realize that they can actually stay in shape year round. Like you can still have these type of things and still stay in shape and still stay healthy. Yeah. Like a big one's Eddie Abu at the minute, and to be fair to him, like what he says isn't incorrect. He doesn't really present it the best way, like swearing and not really scientific with any of these things, but he's correct. Like we want to eat as much single ingredient foods as possible. Yeah. Out of 100% week that I spoke about before, you want probably 90% of that week to be single, if you can, single ingredient foods. Yeah. Yeah, and the most whole foods like potatoes. Yeah, like animal meats, stuff like this. So but with me saying that, like as a coach, I understand that having that 100% of the week, 100% of the time is impossible in this day. No, sorry, it's not impossible, but it's highly unlikely for somebody to stick to in this day and age long term. Like that will be too restrictive, where then they'll probably yo-yo and go the other way. Yeah. So it's about creating that, helping educate, so somebody's mindset is that they can still have like 1 or 2 off-plan meals a week and still stay in shape as long as they have 90% of the week of these single ingredient foods.
Yeah, I think, like you said there, where people go towards single ingredient foods and trying to eat as whole foods all the time and as on the ball all the time, those people saying that don't realise there's people who have 9-to-5 jobs, they've got family, kids, struggling with finances. Like it's all well and good saying eat 12 eggs a day, but some people can't afford that. Sometimes there's not even eggs left in the shop that you're shopping at because they're out of stock. It's like you need to be realistic with what you're saying, but then I completely agree with what people say in regards to you need to be eating whole foods, because it's all well and good saying I'm having a 20-gram protein bar, but no one really says I'm having a 400 ingredient protein bar.
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean like them type of foods are okay from time to time, but you just don't want to be like
reliant on them.
Yeah, relying on them. Like there is obviously more better quality protein bars out there than like others, like with less ingredients in there. But so I always kind of say do what works for you for clients, unless what works for you isn't working for you. So what I mean by that is, like, say if I have a client who drinks fizzy pop and has protein bars and then whey protein and gets the majority of their protein sources from like just processed protein sources, should we say, more processed protein sources, and they're getting like digestive issues, then it would be like, well, that doesn't work for you. Like, even though that might fit in with your lifestyle, you still need to make a sacrifice and make a change there to improve your internal health. Yeah. Because, like we've just said, what works for you, but doesn't work for your body. That's a better way of saying it. Then it doesn't work for you.
Yeah. So going back off that point to the start where we was on about the gut-brain axis, and how what you eat is how you feel, sort of thing. What are the main foods that you'd recommend somebody eats to sort of make themselves feel better? If you could put a recommendation on it.
Yeah, so we'll give you five. So I would say berries,
Yeah.
because they have antioxidants and flavonoids in, and both of these antioxidants and flavonoids will help fight free radicals. Free radicals are unstable cells in the body that are going to cause damage to other tissues and cells in the body. So we want to kind of neutralize them, should we say, and that's what antioxidants and flavonoids do. Yeah. So berries, big pot plus. Yeah, I would say if everyone who's listening to this could get berries in the day, like strawberries, raspberries, blueberries, blackberries, any of them once a day, like I would advise that. Eggs, so like particularly the yolk, because it has vitamin A and vitamin E in, and vitamin D in. So all these, again, vitamin A and vitamin E are antioxidants, which will help fight free radicals, similar to berries, but obviously the flavonoids in berries will have a more like potent effect and positive effect. So egg yolk, I would say avocado. Avocado, again, as you've noticed, both of them last two, egg yolk and avocado, are dietary fat. Yeah. So again, with avocado, it does have flavonoids in it, but it also has good quality dietary fat from long chain fatty acids. And these long chain fatty acids, again, are going to lower internal inflammation. So whenever we're talking about health, our main two priorities from what I've found is lowering internal inflammation and helping with oxidation. Yeah, so we want to have more antioxidant based foods and anti-inflammatory based foods. Them are the two keys. Yeah, so that's why I'd say avocado. And I would also say like an oily fish, so like salmon, mackerel, sardines. These have EPA and DHA in, and EPA and DHA are omega-3 and 6 fatty acids. And what they'll do is, again, they'll help lower internal inflammation. The anti-inflammatory, so you'll have heard of people talking about taking a fish oil. Yeah, that's what's in kind of oily fish. So that's what they extract from it, and you can supplement it. But if we can get this in our daily nutrition or every couple day nutrition, then massively beneficial. And then I'd say another one, last one, is red meat. Yeah. So red meat, in my opinion, so obviously it's full of zinc, magnesium, B vitamins, copper, iron. All these different vitamins and minerals are going to help with different processes in the body. So magnesium, there's too many to name. It is probably the most abundant mineral that is needed in the body. Then we've got zinc, which will help with stomach acid production. And stomach acid is needed to sterilize bacteria and toxins within the stomach. It also helps with testosterone production, estrogen production. There's a lot of different positives to zinc. Then we've got iron. So iron, again, will help with the synthesization of sex steroid hormones, and it'll also help with hemoglobin. Hemoglobin is the carrier of oxygen throughout the body, so it'll help actually carry oxygen and blood to different tissues, so we can repair them, rebuild them, grow, etc. Then we've got B vitamins, which will help with brain function and like neurotransmitters like dopamine and serotonin. It is needed to actually create these. And then the last one I said was copper. So again, copper is going to help with our immune system. It's going to actually help with gut function along with zinc. And we need both of these, copper and zinc, to help absorb each other. So we need copper to absorb zinc, and we need zinc to absorb copper. Yeah. So I honestly feel like red meat is a big one that's missed out, in my opinion. And I have red meat every single day, and I try and have a ribeye or a fillet steak every day if I can do. And that's one of the main reasons why. So I would say them five, in my opinion.
So we've got eggs, berries, avocado, fatty fish, and red meat.
Yeah, I would say them are my five that I would say if you can get them five in there. Don't get me wrong. There's other, I would say, a high amount of different vegetables. Like, I've not included a vegetable there, but if you can get directly green leafy veg, that'd be a sixth one, 1,000,000%. Because again, it's got flavonoids. It's also, It's with kale, it's cruciferous as well, which will help with can help with cancers and stuff like that. So I would say like as much vegetables and as a wide range of vegetables as possible. If you can get 10 different veggies over like a 4-day period in your week, do that.
Yeah.
And then 5 foods daily, you'd be laughing.
Yeah. So two of the things you mentioned that they help with there was lowering inflammation and
Yeah.
detoxification.
Yeah.
Is there anything outside of foods that you'd recommend to someone to do to help with those two things?
Yeah, 1,000,000%. So obviously, like a big one I think at the minute is saunas. So like I advise people who have poor detoxification, they have maybe higher blood pressure, they have maybe poor blood glucose management, that if they can get 2 30-minute saunas a week in, then this will help all of them. So like I think there was a studies in Finland that studied, can't remember how many participants. It was quite a few, and it was very reliant, and it was basically all in all, it said that I think the participants, or some of the participants, did like 1 30-minute sauna a week. Some of them did 2, some of them did 3, some of them did 4, and I think some of them did daily. The actual people who did daily, it helped lower all these different inflammatory markers more. It helped. So like it was like an absolutely extortionate amount different to the person who did one, or the person who did none, should I say. It was like something mad, like 1,000% increase. Yeah. And that was just from sauna and daily. I understand people can't sauna daily. So I always say, like, if you can sauna two to 3 30-minute sessions per week, that'll help with detoxification is the main one. Because how do we detoxify the body? Sweat. Yeah, like the body's main detoxification system, apart from obviously urinating and going to the toilet, is sweating. So if we get in a sauna, then we're going to sweat. So it's going to detoxify the body. Another one is HIIT training. Yeah, like again, what do you do when you train HIIT? You sweat. So if you can train HIIT 1 to 2 times a week if you have poor detoxification, also HIIT training will help with blood glucose management, because when you HIIT train and it's high intensity, what do you use? You use glucose for energy. So your blood glucose will then drop because you'll be using the glucose that you've actually got in the body to actually exert. So that can be beneficial for detoxification and glucose management.
Yeah.
Obviously, inflammation, HIIT training is going to cause inflammation.
Yeah.
So then potentially like another thing that we can do with inflammation is obviously the simple one is sleep. Yeah, so like your ability to have good quality sleep is dictated by your external environment. Yeah. So the reason I say that is because if you're a highly stressed person who works till 10 at night every night on his laptop, more than likely you're not getting as good quality sleep as you can do. Yeah. So that's going to affect inflammation. You're going to carry inflammation. You're going to carry fluid around. Therefore, it's going to be harder, not impossible, but harder for your body to lose body fat or build muscle tissue. Either one. Yeah. So looking at your sleep, but looking at your external environment, how you can manage that. So for example, if you do have to work till your laptop till 10 at night, maybe buy some blue light blocking glasses, or maybe definitely get some like blackout blinds, and definitely kind of maybe supplement melatonin before bed.
Yeah.
So that in terms of like helping inflammation, the reason I said that, and people, like when you talk about sleep to people, they actually fall asleep. They're like, that we've heard that, but it's probably the most important point at lowering inflammation.
Yeah.
Like you can go in an ice bath, you can go in a sauna, but if your sleep's fucking shit, you're not gonna lower inflammation nowhere near as much as you can do.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? So, like I would say to people who are carrying fluid, carrying inflammation, they're struggling to recover, they're getting DOMs a lot, they're not progressing in the training, they're not performing. Look at your sleep. Yeah, I have a couple shift workers who, when they're on a certain shift, they perform worse. It's because of the sleep, because the quality of it's not as good, and the length of time that they're in bed is not as good. The routine is messed up a little bit, so the quality is just disturbed by that, because the body loves routine. So I would say if you're detoxifying the body is a big one. Like just jumping back to that, I know I'm jumping back and forth, but with detoxifying the body, like sauna is a big one. HIIT training maybe, or even like low intensity cardio. If you sweat a lot, you can kind of do with that. Um, like lowering training volume a little bit, just based around recovery, and then I would say supplementing NAC or glutathione. So NAC is a precursor to glutathione. Glutathione's the master antioxidant of the body, so it'll help the liver detoxify. And NAC helps convert into glutathione or synthesize into it. So let's say you could supplement NAC twice a day. And them are probably my like main 4 tips I would say to people for detoxification. In terms of like lowering inflammation, I would say first of all look at your sleep and see where you sleep, see whether your sleep's poor or whether it's actually decent quality. How long are you getting in bed? Are you creating boundaries? Is your sleep environment a good sleep environment, or have you not got blackout blinds? Is your room boiling like this one is, and just stuff like that. So look at that, and then you could potentially supplement like the likes of curcumin. So curcumin again is a really good anti-inflammatory. You could use foods like ginger, because ginger is anti-inflammatory. You could have ginger tea in the morning. You could also use like turmeric on meals, because turmeric again will lower internal inflammation because of the different kind of properties in turmeric. It's similar to curcumin. So I would say them are probably my main tips for people. Yeah.
Yeah, so by detoxifying the body and by lowering inflammation, you're going to create a healthier gut environment, which is obviously going to make you feel better as well.
Yeah, not just gut, mate, just like a healthier internal system, so to speak. Like when you talk about detoxification, you look at the liver.
Yeah.
When you talk about glucose management, you look at like the pancreas and your ability to utilize glucose. When you talk about like lowering inflammation and detoxification, like you can talk about any system in the body, if I'm completely honest, on which system is going wrong. Yeah, but we like my opinion and my philosophy, if you want to call it that, is to if you help fix somebody's digestive system, because the axis is that it connects to of different parts of the body or different systems, then more than likely everything will fall into place. Not always, but more than likely it will, or they'll be a lot better off.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So with a lot of males, females as well, to be honest, something you mentioned was testosterone. Obviously, that's going to make people feel a lot better.
Mm-hmm.
How would someone go about knowing they've got low testosterone, or how would someone go about naturally boosting the testosterone?
So like symptoms of low testosterone are like insomnia or sleep issues, because testosterone will regulate our circadian rhythm. Like hair loss, poor recovery. So like DOMs all the time and struggling to recover. That'll be linked to like poor sleep, because if you get poor sleep, you'll not recover, and therefore you'll get more inflammation. You'll feel worse. You'll perform worse in the gym. Struggle to build muscle tissue because of the recovery aspect. Testosterone helps the body recover. So obviously, if we're not producing as much of it, then our recovery capabilities are going to be lowered. Libido as well. If you've got a low libido, I'd probably say like them are the main 4.
Yeah.
So like sleep issues or disturbances or insomnia, hair loss, poor recovery, lack of ability to build muscle tissue, and then what was the last one?
Low libido.
Low libido.
So if someone's suffering from all those, they should have a think about the testosterone levels.
Yeah. So they would think about like you may have low test. Like if you've got all of them, it's pointing towards you may have it. Yeah. So what would you do? Is I'd probably just get a comprehensive blood panel. The reason I'd say a comprehensive one, where it would be give us a full blood count, a liver panel, kidney panel, hormone panel, thyroid panel, iron panel. What's the other one? Anyway, maybe one more. I can't remember off the top of my head. Because if you have low testosterone, we want to find what's driving that. Is it nutrient deficiencies caused by a gut issue? Is it that you've got poor blood sugar, poor blood glucose management, so you're getting chronic inflammation throughout the body, which is causing like to break a chain within like the synthesization of testosterone. So there's a few different ways what could cause low test. And a comprehensive blood panel will show us whether you've got low test, but also where it's been driven from.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what's driving the testosterone to be low? Like, could just be that you've just done a fucking extreme diet and your test is going to be rock bottom.
Yeah. So then someone could go about fixing that issue that's causing low test, and that'll help build the testosterone back up.
1,000,000%.
And then what supplements could someone have, or what foods could someone eat to then help naturally boost the testosterone?
So, like, I go at this in a way of, like, because obviously, as we've just discussed, it would depend what's driving it, first of all. So, like, for example, say if it's that you've done an extreme diet as a simple one, and you've gone to single-digit body fat, your testosterone's going to be low if you're a natural person. So then what would rebuild that would be actually gaining body fat. So you'd actually because the body needs body fat in order to secrete hormones. Because when it's got low levels of body fat, then it'll do the least minimum possible in order to survive. And what that means is shutting down our kind of testosterone pathway, should we say. Because it's not needed to survive. What's needed to survive is our freaking heart and kidneys and lungs and liver and stuff like that. So it pushes blood and nutrients to these organs rather than an organ that we don't need, should we say, or a system that we don't need. It's very clever. So actually just building up body fat and eating more dietary fat is a big one. So like we need dietary fat to synthesize into cholesterol. Cholesterol is the backbone of all our sex steroid hormones. Testosterone's a sex steroid hormone. So we need adequate amount of dietary fat is the key. Yeah. And adequate calories. Yeah. Like if there's a different scenario, so I'll go into a couple of different scenarios in a sec actually. So we need dietary fat and you'd need 1 gram per kilo body weight. Yeah. Calories should be at maintenance, if not in a slight surplus if you've got low testosterone. But the caveat to that is if you're chronically overweight. If you're 20 kilos overweight, just by losing body fat will actually upregulate your testosterone. Yeah, the reason why is that fat cells will secrete leptin, and leptin will actually block cortisol if it's secreted in a large amount. Not cortisol, testosterone, sorry. Also, fat cells will secrete something called interleukin-6, which is an inflammatory cytokine. And if we have too much of that circulating in the body, again, it can disrupt hormone pathways. So then just by losing body fat, that person's testosterone will start to increase.
So what would be like the ideal body fat percentage for someone to be in like the optimal testosterone?
Good question. I'd probably say, like, it would depend person to person, but as like an umbrella bracket, I would say from like, probably, in my opinion, 13% body fat to probably like 20.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd probably say like at 20%, you can still have adequate hormone function if you're obviously eating good quality food, etc.
What supplements would you recommend to someone?
Cool. So, like the supplements that are needed for testosterone are vitamin D, B vitamins, zinc, and magnesium. So I'd supplement all 4 of them, first of all. Then, dependent on a blood test, would depend whether I'd use either Tonkat Ali or pregnenolone. So, pregnenolone's the mother hormone. So, when I've just spoke about cholesterol is the backbone of all hormones, cholesterol gets converted first into pregnenolone. Then pregnenolone can convert into DHEA. DHEA can go one of either 2 ways, towards cortisol or towards testosterone. Yeah. So, if somebody has low DHEA, because I said that pregnenolone converts into DHEA, then DHEA converts either of 2 ways. Yeah. If they have low DHEA, I'd supplement pregnenolone because pregnenolone is going to convert into DHEA.
So they produce more.
Yeah, you're going to produce more, and then it's going to more than likely, if you manage cortisol, go towards testosterone.
So manage stress.
Manage stress. If somebody has, so we have something called sex hormone binding globulin. So what this does is it's a sex hormone that will bind to different hormones to carry them around the body. So if somebody has low sex hormone binding globulin, first I'd have a little bit of a look on the blood test why that is low. But what you could supplement is Tonkat Ali because it'll help with the transportation of sex hormone binding globulin. Yeah. So it depends. Like people just chuck supplements at, like, somebody goes, gets a testosterone test and like, Andrew Huberman has said that Tonkat Ali is brilliant. I'm going to just chuck that at it. And it may work, but it may not do. So like that's why I feel like bloods are important. Another one is testosterone. So I can't remember the exact study that Andrew Huberman quoted, but it's the way that I've researched that it's good for upregulating testosterone is because it's an adaptogen. And an adaptogen will mean that it'll help block cortisol or blunt cortisol or manage stress. I think it has other pathways in it or other effects, that's a better way of putting it, to help upregulate testosterone, but I don't actually know them. So I only use testosterone with a client if the stress management is poor and they have low testosterone. So I'd use maybe pregnenolone with testosterone, or I'd use Tonkat Ali on its own.
Yeah. So they're the main
Usually.
supplements for
They're
testosterone.
the main, like I'd say, the most important ones though, Dill, are B-Vit, vitamin D, zinc and magnesium.
Yeah, and people need to realise that supplement in itself, the word, is to supplement what you're already doing.
Like, if you just chuck supplements at yourself and you're eating shit quality food, you are wasting your money.
Wasting money, yeah.
You are wasting your money. Like, just don't even think about supplements. Think about nailing down nutrition 90% of your week and then turn to supplements if something's not working.
I feel like that wraps up the podcast, to be honest. Everyone should be eating better quality food 90% of the time and not going towards processed foods before they even think about having supplements. And in general, trying to be a little bit more hungry, look after themselves, and just eat better quality diet. So, have you got anything coming up you want to speak about?
We've probably already done it by the time
We will have done it. This will be posted, hopefully, the day after we finish.
Really? Oh, well.
But I will know what we are on about here is me and Nathan are attempting to break the Guinness World Record for the most amount of burpees in 24 hours.
Chest to floor burpees.
Chest to floor burpees, yeah. Not bitch burpees, chest to floor. We're attempting that. This will be out the day after we've attempted it, so we're either really happy or we're absolutely gutted, but we know we're going to be happy because we're going to do it.
Yeah. So we'll be world record holders once you've listened to this. We will have beat the world record, which is 9,119. And just so everybody knows, we had to do that each, not between us.
Yeah, that's each.
Because everybody asked that. So yeah.
So we'll be doing the record together. So besides that, have you got anything coming up?
Besides that, no, like current goals and stuff. No, I'm just kind of coasting. I've actually got a photo shoot in Dubai. That's about it. But I'm not dieting for that.
Love that. And if anyone's interested in contacting Nathan, I'm sure we'll have you back on as a guest at some point, mate. Yeah. The brain box himself. Absolute plethora of knowledge. You can find Nathan on Instagram. Where would they find you?
So Nathan_transcend. Also, you can follow transcend.physique. That is the brand that I own and that me and Dylan work for.
Well. Yeah.
So if you want to check that out and check what we do, then that'd be cool. I also run an education company as well called AN Education. That's going to be launched on the 2nd of July where we have the first intake. So if you want to check out AN Education 2023, then you're a coach and you want to learn more, then you're more than welcome.
And if there's anything that people don't understand, drop Nathan a message because his DMs are always open. That's where I first found him myself. So yeah. That's it for today's podcast and we'll catch you in the next one.